Hey, everybody, it's 2 days since the U.S. lost 2-1 to Mexico in Houston. The dust has settled a little bit. Got Greg here with me to cut through the nonsense and get down to the details. Greg, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. This was a fun game for some details. I feel like there were some things to kind of look at for this group, the way we played this game, in particular, sort of comparing it to the fightless game that we played against Switzerland to lead into this tournament.
Interesting foreshadowing there. I'm curious. I feel like, we lost control of the Guatemala match from minute 15 on, pretty much, we did create some chances in the second half. But we did lose control. And so to me, it's like, it's no wonder we're going to lose control of this game against Mexico, a much better opponent than Guatemala. Do you have the same culprit, the midfield?
We can get right into it. So first off, gonna be super nerdy about what we're talking about with control, because I think that's such the huge thing, right? And for the U.S., we play so many games. We've played a lot of games in this tournament against teams that were better than. And yeah, what the Guatemala game was a little rough in that sense. But there is that idea that we should control it and it should look a certain way. That the way we control a game is by having the ball and creating a bunch of chances. And Mexico, for me, they're not as good as Switzerland. Switzerland kind of pants them, I think, in the friendly, also in that window before the Gold Cup. But Mexico were better than our players, right? So you can control a game as an underdog in other ways, namely by just limiting where the other team can be dangerous. And we did not do that at all against Switzerland, right? We tried to play them defending over the entire field, and we just watched our inferior players just get embarrassed over and over again in these wide open spaces. And so in this game, this was different in that we gave up control, almost whether it was like the plan or not. We recognized at some point that Mexico are going to control the ball, and we will defend in the way that old school underdogs, U.S. underdogs certainly of the past, may have looked defending, and we're just going to limit where you're going to hurt us, where you can have the ball, what you can do with it in those spaces, and so I feel like that for me is the big story of the team. When you ask about the culprit of not being able to control the match when we are on the ball, I'm gonna kind of hit Malik pretty hard on this one.
I hate it, but I'm ready.
We talked about it in the last game too. It's on one of the goals we gave up, I think against Costa Rica, where I kind of I grade Malik on a harder curve, right? Like, so
Yeah.
if you're listening to this and you're like, how are you going to talk about Malik when this player did this and Berhalter did this and Big Pat is Big Pat, and it's like, okay, that's fine, but at no point before this tournament or at any point during this tournament was I like, I think Seb Berhalter could be starting for our full strength team. So if you want me to say out loud, like, none of those guys, I don't believe a single one of the other players in that group should be starting for the full strength U.S. national team. I'm happy to say that. Like, Big Pat should not be our starting striker when everyone is available. Malik is a guy who I'm grading against the possibility of being a full team, full strength first team starter. So that's why I'm going to be like, I wish he would have done more.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll kind of get into it in the timeline. But the big thing for me was in the first half, from about the 10th minute on, which kind of coincides with when we started to lose total, control of being protagonists or attempting to be protagonists in the game with the ball. Malik kind of actively disengaged himself. He sort of just disappeared when we would have the ball. So there's, I'm qualifying when he was really weak, because in other instances, and you'll probably remember, he had a lot of very memorable battles, scraps. Like, he was in there scrapping, physical, getting beat up, beating other people up. So in that sense, you're like, how could you say, well, he disappeared himself? I remember tons of times where he was right in the mix in the cage.
You're talking about with the ball.
But yeah, when we had the ball and you're watching our guys sort of struggle to find solutions through, I think a big part of it was Malik had removed himself from equations. So when he's our best player at that kind of thing and he just takes himself out, it was so difficult for the rest of the guys to find their way through. They're never going to, and they didn't.
Yeah. Do you think he was just annoyed and checked out?
That's the big question, and I feel like there are like literally like kind of plenty of pretty defensible reasons, right? Like he could have just been exhausted. Uh, that's
Yeah.
kind of low on the defensible reasons list because it's not like everyone else out there is super fresh. Everyone Poch has been running the same lineup for 3 straight
Yeah,
knockout games.
Mexico made 2 changes since Wednesday, so it's not like
So everyone's
not
talking.
that big difference.
But yeah, like this probably is Tillman's first time playing 3 games in super hot weather in a short order. Competitive games too. Costa Rica, Guatemala, and Mexico all turned into really competitive games. He plays a lot of holiday games.
Non-competitive, yeah.
He'll have the midweek Champions League that you got to really get in for, but a lot of the league games, it's like it's going to be a stroll and you're going to enjoy it. And the
Head on
work
down
you
to the
put
south
in.
of Netherlands, knock it around, get a brace, you know?
So I don't know if that
Take a
was a
nap.
factor. Fatigue. I don't know if he's carrying. Like I watching it, I was like, he's got to have picked up a knock. One of those first few collisions that he was in Mexico were not shying away from her. Like Mexico were delivering pain to everybody,
Especially Pat and Malik.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess like good on them for if that's the way they want to do it. That could easily be a blueprint other teams might watch and follow. Is to just punish him and see if you can get him to recede. So it could have been that. Again, he's taken a lot of abuse. The referee in this particular case wasn't giving a lot of whistles for that abuse. He let a lot of abuse just kind of ride.
Well, he it's funny, he did blow the whistle like 6 times in the first 3 minutes, and then he swallowed the whistle.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and I was actually I wanted to mention this. I was frustrated with the way Pat was treated. Now, I'm not trying to defend, just like you, I'm not trying to defend his game or anything, but it seemed like he was not protected by the ref.
And like I usually come to the referee's defense in some of these games where it's like the ref has lost control of the game, and there's just games where teams have decided to be ungovernable. Like you can't control teams that have decided that this is not going to be one of those games. It's going to be polite and law abiding. Like it just wasn't. And so
King George found that out 250 years ago.
So anyway, like he was getting abuse, and he might have just been like, no, nuts to this. Like I've got my big move coming. I'll kind of sit on the edge when we have the ball, and I'm not going to go back into that mix. It kind of reminded me of there's an old Cold War movie where Val Kilmer's a hotshot fighter pilot, and
Never heard of it.
In the climactic battle at the end, there's this dogfight, right? All these planes and all this chaos, and one of the other pilots just like gets spooked, and he just heads to the outside. And he's just like, no, it's no good. It's no good. Like he just can't bring himself to go back in there. Probably had some like trauma brought to his mind. So I don't remember how it ended up, but like I was over there like with watching, even on the rewatch, like, Malik, get back in there. Like, get back in there, buddy. Like they need you in there. And he kind of got into it a little bit more in the second half. So maybe he had someone over his shoulder, some voice he heard telling him.
Yeah. I don't know the movie well enough to know what you're talking about there, but I get the rest of the references. I just want everyone to know I get the references. Most of them. Yeah, and so I guess before we get into the lineups and the timeline, can we talk about who else besides Malik you're grading on the same curve? The curve of like maybe he should be a starter for the national team.
I mean, Tim Ream is basically the only other one, and Matt Freese.
Well, Richards too, but I guess it's all positive things to say about him. Basically,
well, not only that, he was never really up to be graded. I guess. I mean, he was starting. He's the starter. So, I mean, if he'd had a horrendous tournament, that could have changed things. He would have dropped. But it was never like, well, let's see if Richards can be the guy. Because for Richards, I know we a year ago we would have been talking about some of his wild oopsies leading up to Copa America. That were just like inexplicable. Like, what did he do there? But through Copa, those oopsies sort of carried over with how we were kind of talking about him, but he never really had any. And he's been pretty much solid from Copa on. So, we want him to be dominant. We want him to contribute on set pieces. We want all that stuff. But I don't think his position as the starting center back was ever really in doubt.
Yeah. It is encouraging that he was contributing on set pieces. He was pretty dominant in the air, at least in the last 3 games. And
cleaned up messes really well, read situations to get in for blocks, blocking a ton of shots. So Richards, I guess, was sort of standing apart. But Malik
Ream
was the
and
only
Freeze.
guy. Yeah, Ream and Malik, and then Freeze. And then the other guys would have been like Cardoso, McKenzie, Miles. And those
Boy,
guys.
Mackenzie and Miles just got put on the shelf, huh?
Right. Yeah.
Same with Walker Zimmerman.
Yep. So it really did just come down to like what do Malik and Reem kind of look like? Does Freeze hold his own enough to not make you like nervous? Because that's the bar. So I feel like Freeze kind of cleared that bar for the tournament.
Yeah. That Switzerland game, man, everybody who started in that Switzerland game just basically never played again. Which, I mean, fair enough, but I don't know that it was every 11 players' fault. All 11 players' fault what happened that day.
Again, the fight pendulum is hilarious to me. Like the pendulum in the discourse of our fight, we don't have any fight. Now we have a ton of fight. And then it was like, why aren't we fighting more? I just love it so much.
Do you?
I was shocked to see that we had the least amount of fight against the very best team. Like they made us play like we didn't have any fight. And then against much, much worse teams, we had great fight in those wins.
Although to be fair to the fight, the fight theorists, they do say we had good fight against Mexico, even though we lost 2-1.
And that's where the tactics come in, right? Against Switzerland, when we're trying to defend in all these wide open spaces, we just get carved up and look silly. Like, oh, why isn't anyone chasing? And then against Mexico, we didn't bother with that after 10 or 11 minutes. They carved us up like once or twice in the first 10 or 12. And then it was like, what if we just put 8 bodies in at the top of the box? Then what? And suddenly, and we talked about it after that Switzerland game, like we would probably look a lot more respectable if we did that. We would probably still lose. We would just lose slower and more respectably. And that's pretty much kind of what played out here.
Yeah.
Diego Luna is one I didn't talk about when we were talking about, who we were evaluating. And I just want to say I wasn't really ever like Diego Luna is going to
start a World Cup game.
Yeah, knock off Christian Pulisic or Tim Weah. Like that has just never even entered my mind as a possibility. It would have maybe if he had just been lights out against every team and Mexico in the final. But I mean,
it was very much lights on. The lights were on.
I feel like he's another one, just like with the fight narrative of the even like the soccer, real like soccer journos are kind of, I feel like, shifting towards this Good Morning America style like approach to the team in advance of the World Cup. Like we got to really get our Olympic style coverage down now to tap into all of the masses who are going to start watching it casually come 2026, which is fine. I'm not saying they shouldn't do that, but it's just strange to see like Diego Luna is the star of this team and people like jumping him ahead of players who I think are well ahead. I mean, do you think Poch is like that close to, that high on Luna that's in question?
Well, wasn't he asked by Henry Bushnell how he's gonna reintegrate the other players? I forget Bushnell's exact terminology. And Poch goes, "What players? Which players? The players that deserve to be here were here. Let's talk about this group of players in this tournament and their fight," I think he might have said. So I don't know. He's probably being coy. I mean, I imagine he is being coy. If he's not, he's a madman. And I think Michael DeCourcy, I think that's his name, DeCourcy, the guy who wrote for the Sporting News for a long time, still does, as it turns out, had a piece out. And he said, basically, what we learned is that Poch and the A-team need to understand each other a little better and come to terms with each other ahead of 2026 because these players just aren't good enough. They're not good enough to beat Mexico, and they're not good enough to make noise at the World Cup as a result of that. Luna. I had more hope. I want to say I had more hope for Luna than you did. I didn't think, he's going to replace Tim Weah or Christian Pulisic, but I had hope that he could be more than he was in this tournament. And, I'm pretty disappointed, especially upon rewatch with his performance last night. It's like he just doesn't have composure in tight spaces, and just so wasteful with the ball.
Well, my minimal defense of that is going to be like he didn't have his buddy to play with because Malik didn't come play with him.
Yeah.
Like that absolutely did hinder any of these other second, third tier guys' ability to like look good in tight spaces because your tight space outlet is sort of MIA.
I was kind of hoping you were going to come down hard on Sebastian Berhalter and Luca de la Torre too, but I mean, Luca's what? He's in the mix for a roster spot, right?
So, I mean, kind of. I don't know. We were talking about this in Discord, and we were bringing back some real old names. You'll be happy to hear like there's a Christian Roldan thread going, going strong. But where I kind of jump into is like, of course that sounds silly, but at the same time, when you have Sebastian Berhalter and Luca de la Torre and Jack McGlynn and Quinsel, and you have these guys in this group, which are just below, they're in the fringe where if there's a couple of injuries, it's like we're pulling for one of them. Then who isn't in the group? You know what I mean? Like, we were talking about Richie Ledesma maybe getting called up to this camp. Like, it's so hard to just be like, nope, that guy is definitely out. That would be an outrageous call up because we're still in that same mix that we were in at the end of last cycle going into the World Cup in Qatar. That, yeah, sure. Like the last 6 or 7 guys on the roster could be interchanged with like 50 players because we're hitting that level of sort of, mediocre international level replacement roster filler where anyone's fine. Like, just don't be a mess. Don't be messy in the locker room and come along. You get to ride with the group.
Certainly, Roldan would be just as good as Berhalter, I would think. He did have the Club World Cup to play in. So, what do you think Poch is doing? What is he thinking? Is there any like? Is there any historical sort of corollary you can draw on, or like, what's he doing? Is everybody really going to have to like work their way back into the squad now who wasn't here?
I mean, so what was the comment? Everyone's under scrutiny. And I take that, I don't know, I know English isn't his first language, so I don't take that to mean like, he's Descartes just skeptical of everything. I think it's just like, yeah, we're going to watch all these guys and we're going to call up the players we think. I mean, it's sort of just standard coach speak of like, we're going to watch everybody. Everyone's available. Berhalter would kind of say the same things when John Brooks would come up. Like, well, we evaluate everyone. We're watching everyone. We're watching these guys, and we're gonna make our decision. So I think it's just kind of saying that. Yeah. And to his credit, like, what are you gonna do? Like, you don't want to shit on the guys who just played 5 weeks for you and be like, yeah, thank God I got to get rid of half of these guys and bring in my real players. They just lost a tough final with all that fight.
That's true. You could say, there are some good players that we need to integrate over the next 12 months, but we'll get right to work on that in September.
Yeah. I mean, some coaches who lack that like willingness to stick up for their squad might be like, well, half of our group isn't even here, but Poch isn't going to do that.
Yeah. Poor Jesse Marsh. I say poor Jesse Marsh, but I think he does sort of dig his own graves. Okay, let's do the lineups. So Matt Freese in goal, same lineup we've had for the last 3 games. Alex Freeman, Chris Richards, Tim Ream, and Max Arston. Arston, the one player from that Switzerland game who emerged with a lot of playing time in his near future from the first half of that Switzerland game. I mean, Adams, Berhalter in the midfield, Tillman, Luca de la Torre, and Luna, and then Pat Ajumong. You got some shape clarifications?
Well, I was going to say, and just to throw out Arston, the guy like held his own. He did okay. Like we were all.
He did actually do okay.
Yeah, he Bornsteined.
I have a lot of negative stuff to say about people from this game, but it's really not. I don't think any about Arston.
We did them a favor by like sitting back. It wasn't always perfect, and that's the other thing. Like sitting back in that 4-4-2, we'll get into it, but. They didn't have. I doubt they spent a ton of time drilling that, and that's sort of the old standby description of that old 4-4-2. The passive 4-4-2 is it's well drilled. You gotta drill it.
Yeah. Well organized.
We sat in it and it wasn't the best drilled, we'll say.
Right. I can't wait to get into that first goal and how well drilled that was.
Oh, that's where we'll talk about it. Yeah.
Luis Malagon in goal for Mexico, and then Jorge Sanchez, Cesar Montes, and Johan Vasquez, and Jesus Gallardo across the back line. Midfield of Edson, Marcel Ruiz, and Gilberto Mora, the 16-year-old. Nice player, huh? That's something for Mexico fans to be excited about. And then Roberto Alvarado, Raul Jimenez, and Alexis Vega across the front line. Vasquez and Montes just went out there to foul Big Pat, like just repeatedly. Edson came through the back of him one time. I was actually kind of mad about it, even though I don't want Pat to start a World Cup game for us. I don't want him to be like the victim of injustice out there. And it felt like that's what was going on to me.
Yeah, Big Pat will really benefit. The team would really benefit if we're using Big Pat by a tightly called game.
Yeah,
because it's hard to defend Big Pat if you can't
foul
get real aggressive with his ankles and legs. Hey, I'm really glad Raul's back. He went through some really tough injuries, I think, at the Gold Cup a couple editions ago included. And I just feel like he's an absolute treasure for the region. I really like the guy. So I'm really happy to see him thriving. I wish he wouldn't thrive so much against us, but I just like that guy.
He's a very good player. And what a contrast between his movement and Big Pat's, Not to mention all the close control stuff and the intelligence with the ball. So, all right, right away in the timeline, 3rd minute, Big Pat gets crunched from behind by Edson after a Tillman interception that happened off camera. Lots of action happening off camera in this broadcast.
Yeah.
Crazy. All right, so we get a set piece off the foul on Pat, and in the 4th minute, Berhalter takes it. And Richards is, he's on the edge of the box. He sneaks behind a little screen set by Tim Ream. Tim Ream kind of with his hands folded in front of him, like he's not doing anything, but he's making it so that Richards gets loose, and the ball curls in. It's really good, but it is slightly behind him. He crouches a little bit, leans back, and then just snaps it past Malagon. A fantastic header, really. Bounces off the underside of the crossbar by the far post, pretty much straight down, and then skips back out. There's some confusion, and then it's ruled as a goal. 1-0 USA. I got to be honest, we didn't see a replay that definitively showed it was a goal, but who cares? Close enough for CONCACAF. 1-0 USA.
Yeah, we're in 2000. We're in 2010 rules, 2010 technology. It's a goal. They call it a goal. It's a goal.
Yeah, it has to be like conclusive evidence to overturn it on the replay.
So I feel like they said on the broadcast that no, it doesn't have to be clear and obvious. That's not the standard. They literally just re-referee it based on the evidence on the video they have. So, I mean, I could be wrong about what I heard. There are other things on the broadcast that had been said during this tournament turned out not to be the case legally. So I'm not sure exactly, but it wouldn't surprise me again if they were just like, yeah, from what we can see, that's a good goal.
Stu and was it John Strong? Is that the guy who's?
I think so.
They also called every player on Mexico Jorge Sanchez at one point or another in the game. I was like, that's not Sanchez. That's also not Sanchez. But I love this. Richards getting it done. He is kind of the leader of this team, and he's come through big in a lot of ways. So
I think we should keep calling the score on your first set piece play. Like, always score your first set piece, score your first shot of the game. I think that's just a remarkable strategy that we should employ all the time.
It's a great strategy, yeah. Lots more to come. Let's take a break, and we'll be back in a minute. All right, we're back. There's kind of like, after the goal, kind of like a 10-minute settling in period where it's not really clear what the game will be like. Choppy stuff, mostly in the middle third. Sloppy stuff from the U.S. Luna missed connection with Pat. Malik missed connection with Berhalter. But the pattern where we can't string passes together hasn't really fully emerged at this point. And Big Pat just keeps getting wrecked. by Vasquez, Montez, and Edson. And you have something around the 10-minute mark?
Yeah. So through this first 10 minutes, the other notable thing is we are in Mexico's face. Like when they have the ball, we're like deep. Their goalkeeper's got it. They're building there. We are up there. Like we're buzzing. We got all this energy. We're Luna's flying up from the left side. Malik and Pat are kind of chasing and harassing. That is clearly what's happening. And then there's a pretty abrupt shift. I've got an event at the 10-minute mark where Malik is in this. We're building out of our back under pressure because Mexico are doing the same. They're putting 6 guys up high, like chasing us. Like you're not good enough to play against this. So we are rondoing a little bit in our own box around the corner flag. Adams, Ream, Arston, and it ends up with Ream sort of at the touch line almost with some time. We rondo pretty well. And Malik has found a pocket right in the edge of the center circle. And Ream hits it, looping ball. Malik has his normal ridiculous touch where he like has to lift his leg up to his waist.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Brings it down with someone on his back. He's able to do this and still turn the guy and get running to the opposite sideline, to our right side. And Berhalter's over there as a right-sided defender. And so Malik gets it over there. Nothing really comes of it. He just kind of shifts it out to Berhalter, and he keeps going. We switch the play out to the left side and eventually lose it. But what I noticed is during that shift, when we move it to the left side, Berhalter starts to sort of trot back out to the wide space. He kind of rotated with Malik on the run in exchange. He starts going back out to his right sideline, assignment. And he's like pointing for Malik. They want to brush right past each other. And he's like, okay, Malik, back in you go. And Malik just like turns away from Berhalter and just starts walking out to the sideline where Berhalter was trying to get to. And it was just like, in the moment, you're like, okay, well, maybe Malik is just identified like, okay, I can do this guy out here. If I stay out wide, give me the ball and I'll, keep beating this Mexico defender on this side, or this is where the space is. So maybe you're thinking that. But then as the half plays out, it just looks like Malik has just sat himself outside the dogfight. Like he just moves outside. He doesn't do anything for like the rest of the half to actively be an option for us when we have the ball. So I just wanted to clock this as sort of that moment where we lose him as a passing option for the most part.
In the middle of the field. Yeah.
Yeah. Anywhere near the ball. Yeah. He's almost never near. There are times where we do just sort of bring the ball over to exactly where he is, wherever he's sort of stationed himself, and he gets it. And again, once he gets it, or once he's in the cage when Mexico bring it to him, he's strong. He's scrapping. But otherwise he has disappeared himself, in my estimation.
A lack of off-ball enterprise from him.
Yeah, and again, he's the guy we need it most from. Like we have to have him coming in and helping us be the grown-up, solve the issue, calm things down when we need to calm it down, be the relief.
Interesting. I wonder what was going on.
I mean, we also need him to do more than that, quite honestly. Like we need him to do that. We also need him to spring the runner. We need him to slip the unexpected pass into the open space that Mexico didn't see coming. But we definitely weren't getting that.
No, he wasn't sharp. I didn't think he was particularly sharp in the attacking third. I mean, 3 times he got in there. So 13th minute, first shot for Mexico. Adams follows Edson into Mexico's back line, and little guy Mora filters into the space that's vacated. Nobody tracks him. He turns and slides it down the line for Alvarado. So I just noticed, I mean, nobody wants to hear this, but I really enjoyed Mora, like not just on the ball, but like he's like kind of, quietly going around finding little pockets and getting on the ball. Kid has a bright future, and he slides it down the line for Roberto Alvarado, and he runs at Arston and then just kind of toe blasts it, maybe the tres dedos right at Freeze. I think maybe he's trying to curl it to the runner in front of the goal. Anyway, that's the first shot on goal. Thought I'd clock that. Much less interesting than the
you should be
Berhalter Tillman moment, but
no, I think this is a perfect thing to clock, because this was the Switzerland moment for me. This was like, okay, we're chasing, we got all this energy, and Mexico finally were like, okay, if you guys are going to do that, we're gonna dice you up. If Tyler Adams is going to find himself racing upfield and now you've got Luca De La Torre covering all of that space and Max Darson on his help on his left side. Like, okay, good luck with that, and we will get into the box and get these shots off. So I feel like from then on, when Mexico had it, we were giving them a lot more respect, and when we had it, we weren't able to build. So that I feel like that was exactly the shift where it was like, now Mexico have it, but they aren't getting much from it because we're sitting deeper. We don't do anything once we get the ball, but we're sitting deeper, and Mexico now don't get a lot of joy up until they get quite a bit of joy.
Yeah. It's never just unbridled joy, though, for them. I mean, they're totally dominant, but it's not like Matt Freese was standing on his head or anything.
No, exactly. And this is, the Stews felt like he was getting flustered with how much Mexico had the ball. I feel like I heard some other people talking about like they always had options. And it's like, yeah, would we consciously or unconsciously settled into that standard soccer shape of like, you can have the ball, you will have options. We will not really try to take the ball from you, but you're not going to get it in the box. And if we had been more committed, more disciplined with that last sentence, I feel like things could have gone better. I feel like this group could have had that in their bag. But we'll get into, we
could have just bunkered for the next 87 minutes, and I mean, everybody would be happy about the fight if we had done that, All right, skipping ahead to the 19th minute, Tillman misses his connection with Berhalter. It's sloppy. On the ensuing throw-in from Gallardo, Vasquez gets it and backboards with Raul. It's a nice little flick into space. To be fair to Pat, he did some of this throughout this tournament, but Raul's pretty classy. You got to admire that. Vasquez, the CB, the center back, he runs onto it into the box. Freeman gets there first, just inside the box, and kicks it out of bounds for a corner. Vasquez tries to make a penalty out of it, but it wasn't.
Yeah, and this is where these are like the mini fires, right? That we kind of just are going to have to expect because we're not well drilled, and Freeman's played like 15 professional games.
Yeah, and Mexico's actually pretty decent at this, especially with Raul at like probing around the box and finding little openings. 22-minute mark, Adams wins a second ball off a blind clearance from Freeman, who's deep, and we tap it around at midfield for a bit. Tillman's scoop pass to Luca. Tillman's scoop pass to Luca, who is running the touchline, is blocked, I think, by the hand of Vasquez. No whistle. Luca's aghast at this, but Berhalter wins it to Luca De La Torre, and he plays Berhalter down the line. And here I'm going to come down on Pat a little bit because Berhalter curls a good ball across the penalty area. It's behind the center backs, and there is a gap between the center backs that Pat can totally run into if he sees this possibility. I mean, maybe he's thinking Berhalter's going to try to backboard with me here, or Berhalter's going to play it to my feet, and then I'll flick it on for somebody. But he doesn't get on his horse to get to this ball, and it's there. Like if he just runs a little harder for those 25 yards, he's in front of the goal with only the goalkeeper in front of him with the ball. So I'm a little bummed out about that.
Yeah, no, I think you got it right. And he didn't do any of the other things that you were thinking he might have done. Like he didn't commit to any of them. He kind of just trotted, and it was just like, well, let's see what Berhalter does out there.
That's what he does. That's what he does off the ball. Is he trots and let's see what he does.
Yeah. He didn't at any point he wasn't like, oh, there's a trajectory where Berhalter could float this up over, and I'll get to it. I mean, that's basically the only thing he was doing was like, well, if the ball gets floated directly to my head and my head alone, I will get there. But he didn't do anything to improve his pitch control or to get into the most dangerous areas.
And you contrast that with Raul, and particularly there's a moment in the second half, which we'll get to, where he's just standing there next to Richards. He's not moving, and a lot of stuff is happening just inside our half on the right side of the field. And then Alvarado gets on the ball. Raul sees that he has a little bit of time, and he just darts to the end line, makes a diagonal run across Richards' face, and it's just so decisive. And he gets on the ball. He floats the ball to the back post, and we defend it well. But that's a big difference between the two players.
Raul would start for us in this Gold Cup.
I think so.
I think Poch would start him.
I hope so. I hope Poch would start him. 23-minute mark. Good combo from Vega and Raul at the top of our box to spring Gallardo for a cutback. And this is when it's starting to feel like it's just wave after wave. Freeman does well to close it down for a corner kick. The ensuing corner kick goes to Mora at the top of the box, and he has a decent hit with his right foot.
Yeah, this is really good combination. It's really pleasing to watch from Mexico. And it also shows like what a good block can do against it, because this is a good way to attack our block. They're passing into the crowd. They're not afraid to pass into a sea of bodies. And even within that sea, they connect a couple more passes, right? They do just really nice, tidy stuff. And they still don't actually get any joy to get a look through the amoeba. Like they still end up having to go back outside into the cutback zone, and we have a player there to meet it. Freeman is there to meet the guy who they've found in the cutback zone. So it's still like this is what it should look like from sort of both teams in this moment.
And we did a lot of that, right? Throughout the game. Pretty solid stuff. 26th minute, Vasquez finds Vega in a little pocket. He goes to the end line and whips it across. So this is, just like little Mexican attackers just moving around, finding little pockets here and there. And we're playing basically like you just said, we're playing good defense right up until the goal. And I think there's maybe a little bit of blame to go around here, but curious what you think. 27th minute, Mexico scores. They're doing this probing around our box. Lots of people moving around, which I think is different from our attack. I thought I didn't so much have...
You talking about our attack when we're like our A team losing to Panama in the Nations League semifinal? Or are you talking about our team?
I'm talking about like any time. Well, I was mostly talking about this game where we didn't really... Tim Ream would be on the ball, and it just like everybody would just be standing there,
Yeah. Yep.
But the key moment here is Adams pops out toward the sideline to try to deny Vega and Gallardo. It seems like we still haven't really sorted out our wide organization on Freeman's side. Anyway, Gallardo bypasses Adams with a pass to Ruiz, who pops up behind him. And Ruiz is just in a giant pocket of space. He has time, turns, and plays a slick little kind of reverse through ball for Raul. Now, Freeman kind of has a chance to cut it out, and did he get a touch to it? It kind of looked like he did. If he didn't, he just misses getting a touch to it.
Yep.
Maybe he didn't want to like stick his foot out and spray it in the direction of the goal. I mean, that's a possibility because he's coming from out to in. Anyway, the ball gets through to Raul. He slows his run down beautifully, lines it up for a first time hit, and then just roofs it at the near post. I mean, just the net just explodes behind the impact of the ball. Ream arrives to his right as he's shooting, and kind of, I think, soft pedals his intervention a little bit. And I'm trying to figure out why he did this. He had the time to stick his foot out and block the shot, but maybe he was worried about getting 5-hole to the far post, and that's why he didn't do it. I'm not sure. Anyway, it's a really nice moment from Mexico. Curious what you think about Ream and Freeman. 1-1, and there we go.
All right, so we're going to do our whole 4-4-2 bit here now. We've already kind of talked about it a little bit, but like again, the whole point of a well-drilled 4-4-2 is it limits where the fires are and how intense the fire is, and you should always have guys there to like clean things up. But it's all about that like pitch control. So as a team is building around your 4-4-2, we all know what that looks like, right? The ball slides to one side. And the guy nearest out of that 4-4-2 block, the two banks of four usually, will pop out towards the ball, under control. And everyone behind that player will sort of squeeze behind to compensate for that gap. And then Mexico will move the ball, to the next wide open player around the amoeba. And that guy who was just pressuring retreats back, and the next guy pops out, and everyone squeezes into the space. And it's very predictable. It's very predictable for us, and it's very predictable for them. But it's just like, it doesn't matter. We know that what we're going to do, and have at it. Like, have the ball out there. You can't do anything. We are protecting the important spaces, and you just rinse and repeat forever. It was super effective in the 2000s when nobody was like the Barcelona style maximally possession, like doing maximal optimization of their possession. People would get impatient and be like, "Oh, we got to just lump it in, send it in." And then they'd send it into the areas where the 4-4-2 had, numerical superiority, and they'd clean it up, and we'd switch over and do it the other way. The issue here is like Tyler Adams a little bit for us. Like we're playing this 4-4-2, and Tyler Adams covers a lot of ground, but Tyler Adams is, I feel like, a player who loves how much ground he covers. And it's like you talk about limiting fires and putting out fires, and it's like Tyler Adams doesn't always recognize what the fire is it needs to put out. He'll see like a birthday candle over there, and he'll go flying out of the fire station in full gear. And it's like, you don't have to do that, buddy. Like, that's not a thing that requires your attention. So on this play, when Mexico slided over to the left sideline, we have guys there. We can say Freeman and Berhalter have been a little confused over this tournament what to do. But in this case, the ball goes out to one Mexico player out there, and Berhalter is there to meet him, and Freeman is also there. So we have a 2-on-1 in our favor, and it's totally under control. Mexico slide a guy out of the half space. He drops in. So it ends up being a really nice pistoning movement for Mexico. It's textbook. But that guy drops, but it doesn't matter. That guy doesn't create a numerical advantage for Mexico. It's still him going over there makes it 2-on-2, and he's dropping deeper. So it's like he is not important at all for us to assign another body. But Tyler Adams leaves the most important area of the field for us right now, the top of the box, central, and flies out to this player off of the ball who is not a threat whatsoever. And that just wrecks your 4-4-2, right? What's supposed to be very predictable. Suddenly your key denying player vanishes. And what is everyone supposed to do there? Like Luca De La Torre isn't ready to come take that space. Richards has to step up when Mexico identify it very well and play into that wide open space.
Yeah, Ruiz pounces on that space. Like he's right there. He gets there fast.
So Freeman maybe needed to be a little bit sharper to get back, but again, he's kind of inexperienced. Like he needs to realize, like, oh crap, this is the fire that we put out now. Like
Tyler just threw me under the bus. Yeah.
Like what happened? Where is he? But either way, here's the situation. I need to work as hard as I can to essentially get between the ball and the goal. And if he does that, he might be that millimeter that he needs to be closer to the ball to clear it with the outside of his right boot over to the other sideline. So that's a little thing, but again, the big thing is Tyler's choice here. And even Ream, Richard steps up to to pressure the ball, which I think is fine. And then Raul with a brilliant run into that space that Richards has now opened up, and Ream covers it. And we talk about this, what Ream didn't not get there because he was too slow. He got there. He just missed his blocking angle by what? Like, again, a quarter of an inch. I mean, the ball hit his shin, I think. The ball hit his shin and still goes up just under the crossbar, just inside the post. So it went into the only ball-sized hole in the goal that it could have gone into. So I don't even have that much blame here for Tim Ream. Like, he got there, and he just barely got his math wrong on where he needed to block it.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, it did seem like he was trying to keep his legs closed as he made the challenge.
Which I appreciate that as a goalkeeper. That's what I'd rather. I'd rather take the chance that Raul smashes it into that tiny place if Ream gets his blocking angle wrong, because he could have kept his feet together and again just been 1 inch closer to the sideline, and then it deflects out for a corner. But as soon as you lift your leg, that opens up a whole new window for Raul to shoot at. My preference as a keeper is keep your legs together, deny that space, and just. I mean, Ream is taking away so much of the goal, and it's just a ruthlessly efficient finish from Raul.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's Tyler. Tyler wrecks the 4-4-2 here, and this is a pattern with Tyler. This was Panama in the Nations League. In the Copa, where we're down a man, and Tyler like races out from a good defensive position in a transition moment to pressure something that just does not need to be pressured.
Yeah.
And this isn't me saying like he's a bad player. It's just this is something that comes with him. Like, I don't know if like the other guys around just need to be more aware. Like Luca's got to know at any point, Tyler can just go rogue. You got to come in and like help protect that. But
he needs to knock it off, is what I think. He needs to friggin' knock it off. All right, Mexico's now just dominating the ball, and we're letting them have it, and the crowd is olaying. try to get through the rest of the first half pretty fast here. 35th minute, Malik wins it as Mexico knocks it around our box to Luca. He immediately gives it back to Mexico, which is frustrating. Bit of a scramble at our box, and Alvarado gets a decent shooting opportunity with his right foot, but the shot is tame and claimed on the dive by Freeze. 36-minute mark, man, Diego Luna keeps giving the ball away, this time unnecessarily on the left sideline. We're just way too willing to give the ball right back to Mexico when we have a chance to, I don't even mean like tiki-taka down the field and score a goal. I just mean take some of the air out of the game, but we can't because every time we win it, we just pass it immediately to a black shirt. And Diego is, I mean, Luca's doing it. Diego's doing it. Malik's doing it. Sebastian's definitely doing it. So I don't know. 37th minute, Malik bursts into Mexico's half for a loose ball. This is where you see his strength that you referenced earlier. He big brothers.
That cage match stuff is excellent.
It's so good. Yeah.
Yeah. And Malik is so efficient in defense. And I think part of his energy level might have even dictated that we couldn't keep pressing. Like when he stops sort of chasing hard, we have to sit back. We can't have like the high energy chasing if he's going to just sort of trot around. Trotting around is totally fine, but that just dictates an okay, we're gonna be the low block passive 4-4-2, not the high energy in your face high line of confrontation 4-4-2. But he's trotting around, and then he's so opportunistic that as soon as Mexico do make the mistake, he's on it, and that's sort of the whole point of the 4-4-2. Just let them make their mistake, pounce on it.
Yeah. Now he dribbles all the way into the box, puts Gallardo on the ground, carries it another 30-40 yards, but can't get a shooting window and recycles it, and we keep it for a while, which is good, I think, at this point in the game. But we don't nothing dangerous comes of it. And I blame Pat a little again here because he's just kind of jogging parallel to Malik the whole time. Malik is carrying the ball towards the box. And I get this is a little bit of a tricky thing to do, to decide what to do when you're the striker here. But there's a couple options. He can run across Malik's face, just sort of drag some attention off to the right. Maybe even get a ball played in for like a first-time shot from a little bit of a difficult angle, or peel off, go out wide, but just clear out the space. You don't just run parallel to him like 6 yards away the whole time. And I again, just to be totally fair, maybe he expects a little backboarding here. I don't know, but not a fan of Pat's off-ball movement.
Yeah, it's tricky because of the angle Malik's coming from. But so if Pat makes a dragging run across his face, it's one of those where like that's not going to do much because you don't have to respect it as a defender. You can just be like, well, go. You're gonna get to the corner flag before you get the ball, and that's a big win for us if Malik passes to you out there. I think you're right that he needed to flare out wider to the far post and pull that because it's 2-on-2. So if he pulls the guy who's sort of goal side of him farther out to the far post, then you're basically just saying, have at it, Malik. Do what you can do 1v1. And I like that. But the way he stays with him, Pat almost like obstructs Malik from being able to cut that the Mexico defender to the inside because he's going to collide with Pat.
Well, another thing about flaring out is there is the possibility of Malik just clipping a ball to the back post for him,
Yep.
Anyway, none of that happens. 39th minute, not Tillman's game. He tries some tricks and nonchalance on the right sideline. We lose it again. The ensuing throw is worked nicely by Raul out to the right. So he sort of wins a challenge, I think, with Berhalter, maybe Luca. Mora gets on the ball, and after it gets out wide and they work it down the line and cuts in and hits a left-footed rope at the near top corner. Freeze palms it out. But the kid's dangerous.
And I'll still back the 4-4-2ing on this play where it's just like you give away those shots. You let him have the shot from distance, and if he does hit that worldie to the top corner where Freeze can't reach it, then you tip your cap.
Yeah. Freeman giveaway at the 43-minute mark, but Malik and Adams win it back, and Adams clips it up the line for Big Pat. He gets to it first, touches it, and then gets hacked by Montez. It's a yellow card and a set piece from a very dangerous area. And it all kind of goes down here, right in the final moments of the first half. So it's still 1-1. Berhalter takes it again, and it's some crazy stuff happening here. His set piece is under hit. and it's headed away by Ruiz. But we cycle it around and back over to Berhalter, and he plays kind of a weird, long looping ball in over the top. And this grass over the artificial turf, the ball kind of just dies when it hits the grass, and so it bounces up, I think, a lot less, not as high as it would if it were a regular field. And so Freeman gets to it. He gets there just ahead of Malagon, and he heads it off of Malagon's face, and then there's a scramble on the end line. And I think like maybe if Freeman can get under that a little bit more, he can pop it over the keeper. But that's a lot to ask of somebody running full speed at a keeper who's running full speed out at you, because if he gets under it, then his face is more exposed, and I think there's just like almost a natural physical instinct not to do that. So he ends up heading it kind of down at his face instead of getting under it and popping it over him. But anyway, very close to being a goal. And then there's a scramble on the end line. It ends up getting whipped back across by Berhalter. I mean, Freeman actually does well to keep this play alive. Berhalter whips it across. It's kind of cleared up desperately by a Mexican defender, and then skyballs down onto Pat. He nods it down for Diego just behind the penalty marker. And this is a great opportunity. This is a great shooting opportunity. He takes a touch, and as Edson's sliding out to intervene, he just skies it over Edson and the goal and the first, 50 seats in the stadium too. So 2 really good chances to score here. One for Freeman, one for Luna, right in like the span of 30 seconds. And Luna's got to do a little better on this one, I think.
I'm back. I'm defending Luna here. First off,
come on.
His touch is great. His touch is just like that settling touch on that rebound goal he scored against Guatemala. Because it's tricky to take that on the short hop from Pat in the box under pressure. But he's got 2 guys blocking, coming into on the block, and they're both blocking low. So he either has to go over their shins and like sort of caress it, like finesse it. So I guess what he does wrong is you can't go over their shins and blast it, or you're going to get exactly what happened. So I guess I'm not fully defending him. He could also try to go on through the legs that the blockers have left open, because they're both lunging with that outstretched leg. So this isn't like he had the whole goal to shoot at. He's got an obstructed view of the goal that he's got to navigate through, and he just went for full power on a slightly bouncing ball.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard. It's a difficult technique for sure under a lot of pressure, but I guess I'd like to see him put it on frame or at least have it blocked. So that's the half, and we're going to take another break. You know the drill. We'll be back in a minute. All right, we're back with the second half. Right away, we do a really nice build up the left side, but it ends with kind of a failed Luna through ball to Pat. Just a tad impatient from Diego there. Maybe danger adjacent a little bit. Like this is a ball that I should play. Let me play it, and then nothing comes of it.
Yeah, we talk about that surrender last ball, whether it's a surrender shot or a surrender cross, or like I'm gonna hit a through ball that technically qualifies as an attempt, but it's just because I'm out of other options that I'm confident in.
Yeah, that's kind of what it felt like to me. 47-minute mark, Adams wins it at midfield, immediately gives it back. Mexico probes a ball in behind for Gallardo, and Richards blocks the cutback. It's recovered by Mexico. Another cross and a good defensive header from Ream just in front of Raul. So I imagine you're going to say the 4-4-2 is 4-4-2ing here.
Yeah, and Richards is doing the business to help out the younger kids. I feel like is how that's my read on this match. Is Richards is there to like be the problem solver, which again that's part of the job, but he's doing it.
Yeah. 48th minute, we get that Raul run that I mentioned earlier in contrast with Pat. So I won't describe it again, but it ends with Freeman doing really well defensively to intervene ahead of Alexis Vega. So it's a ball loop kind of curled across the box from the end line after Raul runs onto a Alvarado ball. Really, Raul's run invited the Alvarado ball, and it wasn't the other way around. Freeman gets beat on the left by Gallardo. with like a shoulder juggle, which is kind of cool. He avoids conceding a pen by kind of pulling out of the challenge, but then Richards has to block the cutback with his trail leg. So another example of Richards solving problems. We get Malik's night in a nutshell at the 15-minute mark. A lovely Cruyff turn at midfield past Ruiz. Arfston joins him after playing the entry pass. And then Malik takes a really heavy touch and gives it away. And then they're running back at us. Arfston is gone from his bottom left corner in the 4-4-2. And luckily Alvarado just, he cuts in and tries to curl it to the far corner. And just misses.
The good news for me watching this on the rewatch, especially with my Malik cam going, was that to get the ball to do the Cruyff, it didn't just come to him, like the play didn't just arrive at his sort of spot on the field. He actively was moving over to be an option, and then did the nasty turn. And then the second touch was disappointing, but I'm like, okay, he's refocused. He got whatever he needed at halftime. He's gonna help us now. He didn't necessarily help us a lot, but he had some moments, and I think he was more tuned in, more engaged. And then at some point he kind of flipped a different switch and was like, "Now I'm just going to try to dole out some pain."
Yeah, and I love, despite all the other things about Malik, which I'm not disagreeing with, I love the fact that he has gotten into a rhythm where he's a defensive playmaker. Like not only was he doling out pain, he's like winning challenges. He loves to go over and like disrupt stuff. Easily our most disruptive against the ball player in the front six in this tournament, right?
It's a skill. Yeah, it's a skill. Like it's something Musa brought to the table when he first joined the squad. That ability to disrupt but keep the ball for us. So he disrupts. Musa would usually disrupt it to somebody else. Malik is good enough at this that he like disrupts and then just ends up with it himself.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he'll be able to do that against everybody, but he's doing it against Mexico, which is the toughest opponent we have in this tournament. So yeah, his disruption is very good if you get that ball near his feet, near his body.
Yeah, I mean, and he looks cool playing defense, which is a pretty tough thing to do. Adams, another giveaway. Right after that, he's put in a tough spot by Luka, and this is something that if I've said it once, I've said it a million times. He's just not fully 360 degree aware. So you play him a ball in a tight spot on top of our box, you're really inviting some problems. And I mean, nothing came of this, but we did lose it right in zone 14. 53rd minute, nice work from us up the right side. Everybody over there is involved. We lose it. Freeman wins it back, and we work it nicely over to Arf. He cuts in on two guys and tries to curl it to the top corner. Hits it a couple feet over. But this is really encouraging. This is like Tillman, Luna, maybe Luca De La Torre involved to work it across the field quickly for Arfston. And I think it's a good take from Arfston. On the replay, it looks a little further away from being a goal than it did in real time, but still a good hit, I think.
Yeah, we take this. I mean, anything that took like 6, 7, maybe like 10, 12 passes to deal with Mexico's pressure on the right sideline. Granted, there was some sloppiness, but it was us sort of recovering the sloppiness with some good techniques.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm reaching because that's the kind of thing you do when you're watching the JV play. You're like, oh, I'm glad they had that moment. But it was out of the game. That was a nice one.
Right after that, Tillman gets mad at Ruiz for holding his jersey and, kind of swings his arm in front of him. Good thing Ruiz didn't put his face in there. But maybe that's when he got mad.
I feel like, I mean, they'd been nudging that switch for the whole game. Mexico had been trying to like push that button. And I think at this point, Tillman's just like, I'm gonna hit some people. And but he did it the right way. I mean, he was hitting people in the run of play in ways that like it's just gonna be a foul and maybe a yellow.
Yeah. He got away with some too. I think 55th minute, we got Richards versus Raul 1v1 in space after a clip ball down the line. I'm just clocking this to say that he did pretty well to kind of crowd him to the line. He does get megged, but I don't know if it really counts as a meg because Adams recovers it immediately and plays it back to Freeze.
It wouldn't go on Zito's meg roll back in the day when Zito was running that.
Oh yeah.
running thread of Megs. Like you have to end up with the ball on the other side, or there's nothing.
Yeah, I like that. Some confusion on the left side again. This time in our 4-4-2 because Luna gets a little reckless defending Vega down in our left corner, and this is when Vega kind of does him and hits a cross that deflects off Arston and then the post as Freeze paws at it, just sort of in an abundance of caution. And then a few seconds later, 57th minute, Luna lets Vega run in behind him and doesn't even track him. Arston also doesn't track him. So Vega's running free into the cutback zone. He rips it across the 6. Freeze dives to intervene and paws it right off of Richard's knee, and it comes back hot to him, but right into his arms, which is, I think, a fair amount of good fortune. And there's some discussion on the field about whether Luna should be tracking Vega there or Arston. I don't really know what the answer is to all that, but we're having a little trouble with our 4-4-2 here.
Yeah, so on that last exchange where Freeze has to put it into Richard's body and then back to Freeze, it was right after that corner, and Arston had, we cleared that corner out to sort of our right side, and Arston had been the nearest guy out there. So he's actually trotting upfield to stay as like a pressure defender on the ball, going towards midfield on the right side of the field. And then you can see on the replay, like he's kind of trotting back. There just is no left back. And
I see.
Luna doesn't play like Arston isn't there. This isn't like, oh, well, it was Arston's fault for being late. Like this is Ream, Freeze, Luna, not organizing. This is a poorly drilled 4-4-2 moment.
Nobody ever says that. Look at that poorly drilled 4-4-2.
Now, I will say
you do sometimes, but
Arston does take like weird angles to get back to his spot. Like if you're tracing his spot out, he doesn't take an efficient path to get back into his drilled spot. He kind of is curling around the field like, all right, where do I go next?
But maybe Luna didn't even recognize that he was gone.
That's the issue. And again, Tim Ream's right there. He sees it. This has got to be the big shout from Tim Ream. I don't know who our organizer is in these moments, but I'd expect Ream and Freeze to be barking at the kids.
Yeah, Ream doesn't strike me as too much of a barker, does he?
He doesn't. I wish he would bark more.
I mean, Luna does some good defending right after this, and Malik gets kicked in the back of the leg by Edson. I'm a little worried about him being hurt because he's like rubbing his leg and sitting down for a little while. But then this is when he sprints over and blocks a Montez long ball, just with a flying challenge. So that's good. Then we get the upside. Go ahead.
Well, I do think more guys needed to do the Malik in the sense of like lay down more, sit down more. Like you just broke up a play. It's out of play. This is another carryover from that Copa Panama loss when we were down a man. Like lay down. Mexico, as soon as Mexico scored their second goal, every time the ball went out of play, somebody from Mexico is laying down.
I know.
You gotta give your team. You gotta break up the rhythm when the other team's whole thing is we need rhythm to score goals through this block. Break it up over and over every single time. Like be blatantly obvious. There is no recourse for the referee. If you're hurt, they have to treat you. So do it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't even thought of that. We did get the upside down Spider-Man shot there from the broadcast. I appreciated that. 60th minute, Pat wins another foul. Montez drags him down. This one seems yellow worthy to me. I'm not going to complain about the refs too much, but I got a few bones to pick. A few quick notes. So this is when Tillman barges through Mora and Alvarado, and he's like doling out the pain, like you said. I noticed in this sequence or in this sort of passage of play, Berhalter really struggles with the ball in tight spots. Adams fouls Edson hard and gets a yellow for it. So I'm kind of glad to see that, but I don't know why Adams is all the way up by their box.
So Adams fouling Edson here versus Pat getting dragged down by Montez because Montez is on a yellow at the time, right?
Yeah.
This is still the CONCACAFing arts that I don't think we're well up on, because I just talked about laying down more. You also need to get fouled harder, and you get fouled harder. There's that visual language of getting fouled really hard. And Pat needs to be fouled harder when Montez does that. Like you got to be, you got to give the shout. You got to give the big shout. You got to immediately clutch at some part of your body. It doesn't matter whether it was hit or not. But like you got to do a shout and a clutch when the guy, especially because the guy legitimately fouled you. Like don't let them.
It was a tactical foul.
Yeah. Don't let them get away with it and be all businesslike about it. If they're going to go in and tactical foul you, like sell it and get the referee who might already be leaning towards like, there was nothing there. Like grab that ankle and you're like, oh my God, like it was the dirtiest tackle that's ever been dealt out, and get that second yellow. You don't have to roll 10 times for it, but like sell something. You gotta sell.
Pat was experiencing a lot of pain, it looked like to me, but always kind of with a look of disbelief in his eyes, sort of. 62nd minute, Luka wins it back to Ream, and Ream plays a floated ball to Luna's head. And this is where his lack of composure kind of stuck out to me, because he's in space and he just kind of gets up and heads it right to Mexico. Come on, Diego. This is when Berhalter gets weird with Raul and Edson. That whole thing where like on a corner kick, he's like holding both of them and putting his head down between them. Like he really does look like their little brother in this moment. And they're kind of like, what's this guy doing? But I think they were maybe trying to set a screen on him, and he was having none of it. But I liked it. It was a fun little moment. I wish Joaquin would make a video about it.
Yeah, it was a total like Stampy move where he's just kind of like just digging his shoulder into. It's an elephant reference. I don't know if you.
I don't know that one. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to have a sign that says I don't understand the reference.
just standing next to somebody and smacking your head into like their midsection doesn't make any sense. Some people just do that.
All right, 66th minute, Freeze goal kick. It's kind of slapped around in the air at midfield. Luna settles it for Adams in the center circle. He plays it over to Berhalter. Inside to Tillman. Tillman has a great moment here where he just struggles through several challenges and kind of shakes loose, springs Arston on the left side. He goes at Alvarado and Ruiz and rolls it past Alvarado, and then loses it to Ruiz's trail leg. And Ruiz reaches down and palms the ball inside the box. I mean, it does appear pretty incidental that he does it, but he palms it, and then he kind of slightly rolls it to a more favorable position for himself. So I wonder what you think. I didn't mind the no call in the moment, but as I sort of watch it back and I see other people discussing it, I think maybe this should have been a penalty.
I mean, I'm just not going to pretend to know what constitutes handball anymore and what doesn't. It's so hard. It's such like, it used to be such vibes based, and then once they added video, that just complicated it so much, because now you've got to be able to have a black and white definition, because you're going to watch it over and over and see if it meets the criteria, when the criteria has always been just like, does it feel like it should be a handball? And I feel like this is one that does feel like it should have been a handball. So without all the black and white rules and regulations, the ref would be like, you got to get a handball for that. But because you have all that language, now they're going to like find the loophole to be like, well, because it hits this like this language, we're going to interpret it this way. They're off the hook. I think of it as if it had happened to Freeman in our box, and they didn't give a penalty, would I think that it was a grave injustice? Would I be like, that totally should have been a penalty? Or would I just be like, or if they had given the penalty, it'd be like, that's just super unlucky. How do you give a penalty for that? There was no intentional movement. It's just gravity falling. He's falling in a straight line. And the ball falls right under his hand. It's such a 1 in a million thing. So I'm kind of just indifferent to the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think technically it should have been a penalty. However, Mexico deserved to win this game, and the USA did not. So.
But that's how you win games in as an underdog in the 4-4-2, is you get your little bit of luck and you make things really hard for them and you steal it.
Yeah. Luck wasn't on our side, I guess.
That's kind of how it is. It would have been great to steal it.
Here's what Chris Richards said after the game, which I think is kind of funny. He goes, "Homie palmed the ball like Shaq in the box." The thing about CONCACAF is that I feel like we're always one step behind with the refereeing. And then on the other end, we had a block. It was offside. In any other league, I would have been called offside. But again, that's CONCACAF for you. They hate us. Now he's talking about the second goal, which we'll get into. But maybe a little overcooked from Chris. But I like that he's kind of stepping out, saying what he wants to say. Appreciate it.
I love it as long as we just kind of embrace it. Like if you want to create the us against the world thing, then embrace that and have it be like, we aren't going to care that the referees don't give us anything. Because truthfully, like I think the referees in CONCACAF are very suspect, but I really don't get the sense
that they hate us.
Yeah, that they are against us. And we've been on the winning end of some calls that if they really were out to get us, it would be very easy to have given Tyler Adams a straight red card in the first 30 seconds of our last group stage match. Or not given Chris Richards his goal that is, at the very least, very close.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't definitive on the replay, I don't think.
So I never get the sense that we're hated by the refs. I don't think we don't manage them very well with our players during the games. I mean, you can't just punt the ball out of the stadium because you're mad at something and then be like, the refs hate us. They just sent me off.
Yeah. I don't think they hate us either. But sports teams love that kind of thing. And, usually it seems to be a common thread among successful ones.
Well, the way Chris Richards plays very much seems like, whatever, don't give us any help. I'll do it myself. So I'm happy with, if that's his response, I'm thrilled with the way with his mentality.
69th minute, Damian Downs comes on. This is a player who has not made much of an impression on me, I have to say. But he comes on for Luca De La Torre, and after some discussion, Tillman drops into the middle, I think, or no, he goes out wide. And
wide left, yeah.
Yeah. And Luna goes wide right, and Berhalter comes to the inside. Bunch of corners for Mexico. Nothing really comes of them. Finally, in the 74th minute, Downs gets a little bit involved. He has like a really hot pass hit to him in the middle of the field by Berhalter. Takes it down with his chest and then kind of works his way out of traffic and plays it over to Arfston, who then combines with Luca, and Luca plays Arfston down the line. And Arfston plays Downs down the line, and he runs onto it at the end line. Tries to cross it, but hits a stinky one straight out for a corner. So I sort of did some engagement farming on Twitter before the tournament and found a clip of Downs' goal against, or his assist against Bayer Leverkusen in the DFB Pokal. And I was like, I should be paying more attention to Damian Downs, just exactly the kind of thing that Twitter likes. We should all be more excited about Damian Downs, I think I said. And I gotta say I retracted. I'm not that excited about Damian Downs. Maybe he'll surprise me, but
yeah, it's okay to be excited to find out. Again, like I'm always just super ready to be disappointed by the guys I'm most excited about getting a chance. Like I'm so excited this guy's going to get a chance. He's going to prove he's not good enough, but it's so cool that he's going to get, and we need to give a lot of them the chances to find one or two that at least don't like totally trip all over themselves.
Yeah.
And I'm not writing off Damian Downs either. Like this is his first camp, right? That he's been healthy for. And it's, like he's just going to come in and immediately look like Tim Weah. Like I'm not expecting that. There's no middle ground, fellas. I know you're like, there's probably a middle ground.
Well, Gilberto Mora was playing his third national team game, and he was one of the cleanest players out there. Whatever. 76th minute, a bunch of Mexico chances after Berhalter crunches Raul to win the ball. Richards keeps blocking crosses, and then Luna does a kind of a naive foul in our right corner. He does pull on the guy's arm. I think it's Vega. And 77th minute, the ensuing set piece is flicked on by Vasquez, actually expertly flicked on, like the inside of the right side of his head, into like the only place where it's useful for an attacker, and then it flicks into that space behind the back line, and Edson dives and blasts it home. It's the first time they beat us on a set piece. I mean, even got anything on a set piece, and it was because it was a short one that got flicked on. It was initially flagged for offside, but Edson wasn't offside. Freeman kept him onside. Good ball, good flick, great flick, good finish. Now, what about this whole thing about Montez? This is what Richards was mentioning, I think, right? Montez was offside and blocked somebody who was guarding.
Yeah, I think it's all.
I don't know.
I think it's all just coping from Richards. I mean, I don't think there's a single thing here that would get anything chalked off, offside or not. Like even if the guy was offside, which I don't think he was, at any point during the play, first ball or flicked ball. So no, there's just nothing. It's just frustrating. It's like heartbreaking, and to be in that block and be so resolute, especially when you're the specific guy, Chris Richards, being the most resolute, to then have it sort of like snatched away at the last second on that kind of such a bang, like it could feel really cheap. Like, oh, come on, like that didn't just happen. The flag goes up and you got to go through the whole review drama. You'll feel like you were robbed a little bit, but that's the nature of sitting in a low block for 78 minutes.
It is the nature of set pieces too. You don't want to concede. Try not to concede them as little as possible. I think in a game that's this tight.
I don't have too much like blame for Luna, and I don't really care the ref called it. He's way over by the sideline. Like he's being aggressive. He's not being nice. I don't think he's being so. Sometimes guys go in there like you're like, oh, that guy wants to get a foul called on him. Luna was just kind of grappling, and the ref just was like, nope, this one I'm going to call for whatever reason. Kind of spins the wheel, and sometimes they call it.
Yeah. Okay. We had some half moments over the rest of the game. 81st minute, we were possessing patiently. So immediately Mexico kind of falls into a low block after they score their second. They're not going to give us anything easy in transition. So we have to possess around their box, and Arfston plays it into Malik. Nice little entry pass, and then a nice little slip pass from Malik. I think maybe through the defender's legs to Pat going into the box. And he's got, I think it's Damian Downs to his right who's open for a half of a second or something. But essentially, he just runs into a crowd and can't figure out what to do with his feet, and we lose it.
The Malik class, though, this is what's so evident, and this is where, despite the fact that I'm, hammering, if you want to call it that, his first half choice to sort of sit out when we have the ball. That's like a decision we can fix. You can have him be more engaged. The class that he adds in that moment is why he is absolutely still in the discussion for starting on a full strength side. And depending on this fall is going to be really interesting to see what happens if he moves, if Gio moves, who is playing, who's being effective. But for Malik, it's one of those things where he'll be in the old Gio role, where if he's playing at all, like whether he's effective or not, he's going to be in the discussion for us, because we just do not have that quality in abundance to be able to do that, what he just did in that moment.
I mean, we have one other player that can do it, maybe two. Tim Weah.
Thank you. I was going to go to bat for Weah, but I'm glad
Tim Weah and Gio Reyna. And, McKinney does some cool stuff sometimes in tight space, but not the way Malik does. McGlynn subs on for Adams, which I guess, what's the thought here? McGlynn's going to just bang one in from distance and equalize? Or he's going to create some? Go ahead.
I think they probably have like an Adams hard stop, just like they did in the last game. I think they probably felt like, no, we can't. We have to take him out. Doctor's orders or whatever. I mean, you could argue it's just offense or defense because we're chasing, compared to last game when we're like, why would we take Adams out protecting a lead? But my thought is Adams just has to come out of the game because of his hamstring tightness.
And we're not going to see Johnny Cardoso, that's for sure.
No.
Ajamong's able to get in the box after tracking it down, and some nice little combo work with Arfston in the 84th minute. But I feel like you almost never see this. He has it tackled off his foot by Edson while he's winding up to shoot. So it's like he's like a solid 1 second away from shooting on the slow motion replay as the ball is tackled away from him. That is not a compliment. That is not a compliment.
Mexico made a couple of really key interventions there in that last 10 minutes.
You mean this one and the goalkeeper coming out on Pat?
That one, and then the Freeman one at the end, where they got Freeman at the corner of the box.
Oh yeah, I mean Freeman took like a 20-yard touch on that one, so 10-yard touch. Santi comes on for Raul, a couple other Mexico subs. Aronson and Tolkien come on for Luna and Arston. And I think, yeah, that Freeman one, I did have it in the timeline, but I deleted it. But we did some decent stuff up the right side, and then Freeman's like dribbling into space, and he just gets tackled right at the corner of the box, right? It's like our last action of the game.
Yep.
But the one before that is in the 96th minute when Ream plays a lofted ball in behind, I think for Damian Downs, but Downs and Pat are in the vicinity. And Downs is just kind of twisting in the wind, trying to figure out which way to turn to get in the ball, to get at that ball. And he never really figures it out. So he ends up leaving it for Pat, who gets on it, cuts Montez with his first touch, and then just kind of scuffs his shot into the sliding Malagon. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Some giveaways from Tillman and Berhalter, a Berhalter foul in the corner, but that Pat chance is the only thing we really got out of stoppage time.
And it's actually a ridiculous chance to get in this, because we're not getting anything by building. And really, this becomes like the Pat case in a nutshell. To make a World Cup roster is, if you're losing and you can't build through a team, is there a guy you can lump the ball up to who can, while running, gain the leverage necessary to be in on goal or to be dangerous? And it's like, Pat can do that. Pat can't get his feet right to do the thing that you need to do to score a goal, but he can. He gains the position. Right.
I just thought that one where he gets tackled before he's even actually, he's still winding up, was a perfect encapsulation of it. It's like he's moving a little bit slower than everybody else in some ways, even though he's like pretty fast. So, well, our B team, our B- team, whatever you want to call it, isn't as good as Mexico's A team. That's for sure. What else before we get out of here?
I mean, pins, like, everyone's just going to be just edge of their seat stuff for a couple of things. One, again, all the moves to shake out for the fall. Watching Johnny at Atletico, watching Malik if he moves to Leverkusen, watching Gio's agent's Twitter, and then eventually, hopefully, watching Gio play soccer on a soccer field. And then Ricardo Pepi coming back from injury. Is he the starter at PSV? Balogun, does he get minutes at Monaco? Like, there are going to be so many club soccer stories that I feel like they're going to feel so heavy for us and what we want to do for a home World Cup. But what I will say is, now, because of this sort of generally underwhelming performance from the supporting cast in this tournament, less sort of like excitement of, is Diego Luna going to move? Is Diego Luna going to light it up at RSL? Like, it feels like the guys who are here to try out to be more than roster filler are sort of going to be relegated to, at best, roster filler.
Yeah. Yeah, it's too bad, because I was hoping for more from Luna. But you never really had that much hope for him. I mean, that's kind of a harsh way to put it, but you did sort of say that yourself a few minutes ago. Outside of Luna, I don't know. Cardoso's the big miss from this roster, right?
Yeah,
because we didn't get anything out of him other than more sort of like head case stuff. And but Tillman and Richards, I think, both largely acquitted themselves well in this tournament. Richards more than Tillman, and then Freeze is going to compete.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Tillman gave us like a look at his class that he hasn't really busted out for the national team against any opponent. We played weak opponents, and he hasn't really shown some of that command of proceedings that he showed in this tournament against the worst teams that we played. But then also at times against Mexico, and his defensive commitment, which some people would question, seemed to be there.
It. Yeah.
Well, and so the other thing I'll say is, Poch mostly set it up where Tillman had less to do defensively. Like he was in the 4-4-2. Like he might not get that benefit with the full squad because you're going to give Pulisic less to do, or you're going to give, probably Pulisic. It would probably be Pulisic. So
yeah, if you defer to Pulisic the way other coaches have, and it appears Poch is not doing,
Yeah, that's
Pulisic
true.
wanted to come play in the friendlies, and Poch was like, "Nah, sorry, bud. If you're not going to come to the Gold Cup, you're not playing in the friendlies."
But yeah, so we'll have to see. But I think generally, Malik getting stuck in this game, being willing to scrap, bodes well. The questions I still have for him is like in those key moments where he's part of the central midfield, where we got to shell up in front of our goal. Is he going to be there on time, off the ball? But in the cage, he's excellent.
Yeah. Okay. Well, just a few programming notes. So it looks like Chris, that's Waukee, and Vince and I are going to do a sort of what we learned in the Gold Cup show on Thursday. And I'll put a link in the show notes for questions if you have any for us, or comments. And then I'm really excited about this. I just got confirmation from Tom Byer, the Soccer Starts at Home guy, that we're going to record something next week. And I won't release it immediately because I'm going to do a 4-part series, a first in the Scuffed universe, a 4-part series on youth soccer and coaching rec soccer. That's sort of geared towards the beginning of the fall, because that's when a lot of people's kids are going to, you're trying to decide whether to sign up the kids.
Yep.
And it's going to be Tom Byer, the Soccer Starts at Home guy, to start it off. And then 3 other people that I think will work out. And we'll sort of work through the progression all the way to like 7v7, where you're asking them to rondo. So from birth to rondoing, maybe that should be the name of the series. So I'm working on that too. And of course we'll kick back up with the Monday review here before too long. Greg, thank you. Anything else?
Now we're good, man. Gold Cup in the books. Do you think the A team comes to the next Gold Cup?
I don't know. Probably not. Hey, thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you.